episode of Revenue Roadmap. We have two guests today, which is what an honor and a surprise, not our normal routine. Joni and Megan are with us today. And Joni and Megan, I'd love for you to introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about your firm, your focus areas, and then we can jump into the questions.
Okay.
Joni, you go first.
All right. I'm Joni Berner. I started a sole practice almost 40 years ago, and it has now morphed over 40 years into BKW Family Law. We've always practiced family law exclusively, and we've always put a pretty broad definition on family law. We wanted to do all the things that bring families together, and most of what we do is the aftermath of a breakup. But we still wanted to cover everything. The chief theme in our firm has always been our goal to be great lawyers and great mothers. I left a large law firm when my daughter was 13 months old and started my own practice.
Wow.
Because I just knew that, as cool as it was to work in a big firm in Philadelphia anyway, just according to everyone else, it was not something that would allow me to go off to the kindergarten school play without lying about it. And so we've always welcomed and emphasized to all our employees that combining family and work balance is really important. Megan has been with us since 1998 when she was a law student, and she took over the reins of the firm with another of my former partners, Lisa, 2 years ago. And I'm now of counsel to the firm, and I just sit back and mother and mentor and pray.
Oh, I love it. That's amazing. I definitely want to get into your origin story because obviously things have changed so much over the years, and how you were able to hand off the firm. I think that's very important for our listeners as well. But Megan, give us a little bit of more background on you. Why did you decide to come to the firm, and how were you able to rise up in the ranks and be able to take it over?
So I was a law student. I graduated from law school in 99. And while I was there, I had decided, and this is a little bit of my origin story, had decided I wanted to open a legal clinic at a domestic violence organization. And I was going to go from Philadelphia, where I was in law school, to Colorado. And the best way I thought to do that was to get into a small law firm to see how they would run, since I would be starting from scratch with the domestic violence organization and creating a legal clinic. So one of my professors, who will take credit for my entire career, has hooked me up with Margie and Joni. At the time, they were Berner and Claw. And so I started with them in 1998, when I was the summer between my 2L and 3L year, and worked with them in a law firm and was connecting with organizations out in Colorado, had connected with one, had started applying for grants, and they decided that they weren't ready. And so Margie and Joni, in their infinite wisdom, asked me to stay, and that is how I stayed. And I have never been anywhere else, and I've never interviewed anywhere else. Like, it's a unique story because I never had to interview at another law firm. And in fact, not to digress, but one of my funny stories is when I came in to meet with Margie for my interview to work there as a law student, I purposely didn't wear a suit. And I remember this clear as day. I'm like, I don't want to work for any law firm where I have to wear a suit every day. So I purposely did not wear a suit. And Margie wasn't even fazed. I don't even think she thought about it. So I just fit right in with Margie and Joni. And I've been so blessed because they have just been these amazing mentors. And so that's all I've done. I've worked there. I worked up in the ranks, as you say, became a non-equity partner, and then became an equity partner. And then when Margie and Joni decided to move to of counsel, Lisa and I now have another woman partner. So now there's the two of us that are partners in the firm.
I love it. And how many attorneys are you at today?
So right now we have Margie and Joni as of counsel, and it's me, Lisa, and another associate. We're actually looking for someone. We had a gentleman with us who was doing estate work, which has been a recent expansion of our practice, which fit really well with our practice. And for other reasons that did not work out. And so right now we are looking to add a fourth attorney who can do estate work, because it really was a natural extension of what we were doing.
Amazing. That's awesome.
Joni,
I want to go. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just saying we've stayed that size because we really like to keep the family in family law. So we've not ever gotten very large on purpose.
Love it. Joni, I want to go back to the beginning where you talked about working at a large law firm, realizing that you probably weren't able to give your daughter the time and attention potentially that you wanted to, and having to go out on your own. I'd love for you to talk our listeners through that experience, especially it's such an interesting time in your life, right? New mom, lots of new things happening, and saying this is the time I should go now on my own, which by today's standards would be like,
Yeah.
what? Are you gonna take all that risk? Are you sure now's the time? Give us some perspective, if you can, of that period in your life and being able to take the risk.
In those days, family law was not practiced in large law firms very commonly. I was at a firm that was unique in that it had two partners who were very involved in the establishment of Pennsylvania's new divorce code that went into effect in 1980. And so that big law firm was actually doing family law, and I was able to do it and really grew to love it. And I made a pitch to them that we should be doing family law on a bigger scale. It shouldn't just be the daughter of an important client who comes our way. We should really do this because we were the experts in it. We had the writers of the statute in our
Sure.
firm. And so I made a pitch when I decided I can't stay here anymore because I knew it wasn't going to allow me to practice law and be a mom the way I wanted to. I made a pitch to them, a crude business plan, but we could do this. We could represent. And they said, no, we don't want to. And I was, wow, how could they? Now, I have to say, within 2 or 3 years after my leaving, they did do exactly that. But so maybe they just didn't want me. But it was a surprise to me. And then I searched around to find the right setting and right firm to join. And I quickly concluded that I could do it on my own. And key to it was to let people know I was doing it. I stayed at the big law firm for 6 months between my announcement that I was going to leave and actually leaving. That gave me an opportunity to get office supplies because somehow these important big partners said, you need some office supplies and create a client base. I got permission to take my existing clients with me. So I didn't work on them very much, even though they had paid an advance fee, and had a small client base. I had at least 6 to 12 clients when I left. It was huge. I also represented or established relationships with some of the personnel in that law firm. And I represented a couple of secretaries, really highly skilled secretaries, who bartered with me in the beginning and transferred all of my forms that I had developed over those years onto my new state-of-the-art Apple IIe computer.
Oh yeah.
This is before law firms had computers. And it just felt like a nice synergy of me being able to help people who needed a quality divorce representation without breaking the bank. I needed people to help me just do mechanical things, set up forms, but also to talk to me about running an office. And it was a nice experience in the beginning. I also, financially, it was scary. I borrowed $5,000 from my 401k or whatever the retirement fund was there, knowing I had about 60 days to get it back or it would count. And I used that to start the firm, find a line of credit, which was actually a credit card with the Bar Association. And I paid back that $5,000. I didn't pay a dime of taxes. And somehow I was able to start a firm on that. Of course, my biggest financial decision was whether or not my embossed stationery was 3-dimensional or just flat. Yeah, it was a different time. It was
For sure.
a very different time, but the quality.
I think the principles remain, right? The acknowledgement that you were taking a risk, that you had to borrow this money and you had to pay it back. That's things that our listeners go through today and every day. And it's the entrepreneurial spirit, which we love to talk through.
Yeah.
I'd like to transition to, you now have your firm, you're a solo attorney, getting revenue, getting clients. You realize, okay, I need some help. I need to now hire someone or create a partnership. Tell us about that, specifically understanding that you have to go from maybe a we or a me leader, like I only have to lead myself and I just control myself, to a we leader, as in now I have to delegate, I have to work with someone else and create a culture and all of that. Give us some perspective on some of those early decisions.
My earliest decisions were about my staff. I was on my own for about 5 years as
Okay, so
the only lawyer in the firm. But my staff was important, and I had a series of really skilled secretaries who happened to be gay men who couldn't get jobs in a law firm in those days. And they worked for me at night. I dictated in those days. Everything was on those little tapes. And in the morning, I'd come in with a stack of beautiful paper ready for me to sign because, again, we didn't use email yet. Technology, it was the olden days. And that was a really wonderful experience for me to recognize that there's a workforce out there that looks a lot more diverse than what a large law firm in Philadelphia might think is appropriate. So that was exciting because people who aren't able to find their place in the workforce and then find it are hugely loyal and enthusiastic and skilled. When I added my partner Margie, it was really this is more of a romance tale because Margie and I just hit it off the very first time we met, and we stayed in touch with each other, and I just knew that I wanted her to work for me. When I heard that she no longer was going to have the position at a nonprofit agency she worked for, I said, you need to come and check me out, even though it was very scary to think about hiring a person at that level. And I had also just made a huge decision before I hooked up with Margie. I made a huge decision that my first associate was going to be an IBM computer. And I converted from my Apple system to IBM. And my secretary and I had a network, which was essentially consisted of a floppy disk that went back and forth. But that was a huge investment for me. It was scary. And I said, that is my next associate. And I took Margie on anyway. So it was a tough year for me. But did it pay off, because my instinct was right that she and I just were naturally good partners. And we have been to this day.
It's amazing. And how many years ago was that?
That would have been about 35 years ago. Yeah, it's been almost 40 since I've been on my own, 5 of those on my own, and then I got Margie.
And you got Margie. And talk to us about the 35-year period of working together, building that culture, building a culture of work-life balance and having a family-based atmosphere. Was that something you guys aligned on very early and just worked through it over the years and continued to refine it, or how did that work?
I have to say that Margie taught me the most about that, because she knew that she wanted to work part-time and be with her daughters more than I had planned to be with my children. It turns out that our 2 children were exactly the same ages, so that we had the same milestones at the same time, and we really could talk to each other about that. But I saw that Margie just carved out, she was much better at me of saying, this is my practice, that is my family. There is a divide between the two. I don't take my practice home to my family. I was doing that and pretty much working around the clock, and it took me time to learn to just practice what I was preaching to the others who came after me, make time for your family. But yes, we were on board with that. We were on board with the people we hired, and emphasizing the importance of being in a workplace where you are allowed to honestly be a parent. That just became, as I said earlier, that's the theme of our firm, and it really was a strong theme.
That's so cool. And just, Megan, I appreciate your patience, and I want to turn tables to you to talk through today. Do you feel that ethos of culture from 30 years ago still vibrating through the firm? And how are you going to continue to make sure that stays within the firm for the next 30 years?
Oh, it's absolutely a core of who we still remain. We've always said to everyone who works for us, from our front desk gentlemen to our paralegals to attorneys, we recognize that family comes first. There is no question for any of our employees or anyone that works for us that if their child has a play and they need to get to that they get to go do that. Or if they're sick and they need to stay home, they get to stay home with their child. We have arrangements in terms of staffing so that kids can take their children to work and pick them up, and take them to school and pick them up from school. It's just part of who we are. And there's never been any question for us to accommodate that. That has allowed us to really have very loyal employees. They know that we value them and their lives and their family, and they give us back in return then their really hard work and dedication to the firm. So that is something that I will never, ever give up. It's very important to me.
That's amazing to hear. And I'm sure it helps you in the hiring process and also helps you target the right individuals to come into the business.
It's exactly right. That either they're also family oriented, either because they have a family or because they're looking to create a family. So that is a value that they have. So if they have that value, they know that they are joining a place that also has those same values.
I love it. Talk to us about the next 5-10 years. How are you thinking about the firm as you now are taking over and you have a partner and you guys are now together with the responsibility of carrying on this vision and the firm's reputation? Is it something where you want to 10x it? You want to keep it small? You want to venture into other things?
So I do think our goal is to keep us relatively small. We have varied in terms of having anywhere from 3 lawyers to 6 lawyers. And I think that fits well when you think about our ethos and our values. In addition to what we just talked about in terms of valuing families, we also find it very important to be able to accommodate middle income clients. We really believe that teachers and people who work at banks have the right to have really good legal counsel when they are going through custody cases and divorce cases, abuse cases. So we try to keep our hourly rates low and reasonable so that we can meet the needs of that community. We have every intention of that's where we want to stay. It's important to us. There are small family law firms in Philadelphia that cater to very high income individuals, and that's what they do. That's not where we see ourselves. We really we want to work with everyday people. We recognize that we are all everyday people. And so I really think that's where we're going to stay. We'll grow. We're going to add some lawyers over the next couple of years. We love working with what we call baby lawyers. In fact, at one point, Joni, we had this project going where we hired multiple baby lawyers. And for a year, we trained them and supervised them, and they went off into their own things. And some of those baby lawyers have now grown to have their own law firms or have decided they didn't want to do family law and they're doing immigration law. But Joni had that wonderful idea, and we really helped create the next generation of family lawyers with that program that we were doing.
And instilled within them amazing values and opportunities to lead. As a leader myself, I think the most gratifying thing is watching your team or individuals or people that work for you level up, buy a new house, buy a new car, get married, start their own business. Knowing that you played a small part in that journey is extremely gratifying. Yeah. I am so thankful for both of you and our time together today. I really appreciate the opportunity to hear your story. I'd like to end the normal way that we end this podcast is with 1 or 2 pieces of advice to a young lawyer who's in law school, who's thinking about either joining a big firm or starting their own firm. What is 1 or 2 things that you would like them to think about or prioritize in this moment in their life?
Joni, do you mind if I go first?
I appreciate you going first.
All right. I have 2 things. First is never compromise your values. Decide who you are and the person you want to be in your practice, and do not compromise. And the second is surround yourself with good people, because the people we surround ourselves with that are there to support us can make absolutely all the difference for you, both in your life and in your career.
Amazing. I love it.
And my advice would be, it's very old school advice, but remember that your reputation is everything. And doing the right thing in the right moment might not be the best business decision. You might not make the most money with that decision, but to compromise doing the right thing in the right moment might not be the best business decision. You might not make the most money with that decision, but to compromise your principles will tarnish your reputation, and that carries for a very long time. Ultimately, the best referrals come from people who have worked with you, your clients, other attorneys, judges who see you, and they remember a good reputation forever. And they also remember a bad reputation forever and will never, ever refer anything to you. So I don't know if that was one or two or.
Perfect. Perfect. Exactly what we're looking for. Thank you both so much again for your time today. Everyone who's listening, we appreciate you, and we will see you next time on Revenue Roadmap.